welcome to this new video, and we're looking at what is update 1.2 and the Racing USA expansion pack part 1 for Automobilista 2. Now, get yourself comfortable because this is big. It's a big update with huge changes to Automobilista 2, colossal changes, and a big expansion pack as well, a very big expansion pack. So starting off with a kind of summary of what we've got in the update itself, which obviously everybody gets. The update introduces what's being called real weather, and that's exactly what it says. What you can do is you can customize the date for an event and tag into real weather, which will then pull through historical real weather data since the 1st of January 1979 for all of the locations in the game. You can also customize the season the event will take place in, and there are visual differences between summer, fall, winter, spring, from autumn for those of us in the UK. Now, the visual differences in terms of the seasons are currently restricted to tracks which have had art updates as part of this update as well. So that's currently Daytona, Laguna Seca, Bathurst, Brasilia, Campo Grande, Cascavel, Curitiba, Cavello, Spielberg, Nürburgring and Spa. And it does say that all of the other remaining tracks will receive the seasonal foliage update in the next update, which is going to come later on this month. And you can actually see some of that in, I don't know where it'll appear in this, there's some GT4 footage of the new BMW GT4 at the Nordschleife, and you can see the snow and the differences in the trees and everything off track when you watch that. So one of the things the new seasonal foliage does bring is a big amount of texture load to all of the tracks. So 10 to 15 gigabytes of extra disk space is what we're looking at here. This was a fairly big update just for these. And this raw weather, it's genius, quite frankly. It works so well. So you set the date and time, and what it will do is it will look up this historical real weather data, and that's what it will tie into the game. But it goes beyond that as well, in quite a clever way. What it also will do is it will look at what the weather was like before. So for example, if it's currently and again there's some footage on here of the new Gte Class racing at Laguna Seca, and the actual weather in here is overcast on that race. But what it does is it looks at what the weather was a few hours beforehand, and it clearly been raining a few hours beforehand, so the track surface is still wet as a result of that. And as a result, I'm still having to use my wipers there because of the spray that's coming off the wet road surface, despite the fact that it's not actually raining. And you just get, you can have a ludicrous amount of fun, quite frankly, just by playing around with this. Just pick a track, pick a date, race, see what the weather's going to be like, and just then tweak it by a few hours either way, and it honestly, it's game-changing in terms of that regard, because you can pick a track, you can pick a race from history, and you will be racing in the conditions that were at that track at that time on that date. And that's a fairly major thing, in all honesty. That's deeply impressive what it does, and particularly how well it does it as well. And with all of this seasonal foliage and this weather and the progression that you're working with and the ability to play around with this, what it also does is when you're using real weather, if you set up a single race or custom championship, we'll come on to those in a moment, using real weather, what it will also do is the qualifying sessions are a day before the race day and the practice 2 days before. So it's pulling in the weather for all of those. So you will have, again, those different degrees of and types of weather which is it just it works really, really well, and it's just great fun. And with the live track side of things, it plays into it so well, and that's without mentioning the updates to the physics, because the titles had, as part of 1.2, an absolutely massive overhaul to the physics. I mean, huge. Revised tyre tread, centre of gravity, height, drag coefficient parameters for all cars. Load of drafting effects, weight changes, power torque curves, aero sensitivity, yaw rate sensitivity. I'll leave a list to all of the changes. It's huge changes to the way it drives in terms of the physics and the force feedback. And I'll be honest, the criticisms that have quite rightly in the past been levelled at the Madness engine around the accuracy of the physics under certain circumstances, and in particular the force feedback, to my mind, they are gone here. What Razor have done with the Madness engine here is advance it to a completely new level, and from that point of view, from physics alone, we're not looking at version 1.2 of Automobilista 2, we are looking at version 2.0. This is a completely different game as a result of it, and we now have physics and force feedback that are knocking on the door of the likes of Assetto Corsa Competizione and R Factor 2. And that's a big thing with the Madness engine. That really is a big thing, and genuinely it's that good. If you've got MS2 and you haven't played it in a while because of your gripes about the physics, honestly, give it another go. I would genuinely be surprised if you weren't deeply impressed with what they've done and how both the physics and the force feedback is working. And I'll be honest, that's pretty much regardless of the cars. I've given a good range of cars a run through here, including their small number of street cars, different race-based cars, different types of cars, and so far everything I've played around with has been very impressive in terms of how they've changed and updated the physics engine and the tyre model for Automobilista 2. It genuinely is a next level in terms of that. What they've also done with the Racing USA Part 1 is given us a huge amount of content, in all honesty. Now, most of the content we've got is to do with that. There is one freebie for, as far as I know, everybody, so we'll deal with that first of all. And that is, they've added the BMW M4 to the Gte Class in Automobilista 2. But in the Racing USA Part 1 DLC, because this is going to be broken down into 3 different parts, what they've given us is we've got Daytona International Speedway with 2 layouts on it. Interestingly, they're 2 infield layouts. We don't have the full oval yet, and I'll talk about why that may be in a short while. But we've got the standard infield and we've got the NASCAR infield. We've got Long Beach, and we've got the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. So let's be honest, Daytona and in particular Laguna Seca, these kind of tracks that turn up on pretty much every racing title, but they're really well done in here. And in all honesty, with the new weather system and the real weather, all the tracks that have got this, and when it comes to every single one of them, it really is quite astounding. On top of that, we've got a whole host of new cars. So they've added the Gte Class, and for that we get the BMW M8, the Corvette C8R, and the Porsche 911 RSR. Now, in terms of driving these. The M8 is the biggest, longest and most stable, so if you're a bit unfamiliar with GTEs, that's a good place to start. Right at the other end of the scale, the Corvette is the most twitchy but the most manoeuvrable of them, and the 911, the RSR, kind of sits in the middle ground, and I'll be perfectly honest, it's my pick, but I have a massive soft spot for Porsche, so I'm a little bit biased in regard to that. They've also added a DPI class, so Daytona prototypes. We've only got one car in that at the present moment, and that's the Cadillac DPI VR, and I expect that will be expanded on in the future. Now, we are going to get another 2 parts of the Racing USA DLC, and what they're going to look at is America's legacy of open wheel racing, and also America's history and oval racing. So that's what the 2 that follow this are going to be looking at. So the first, or rather the next one of those, part 2, I believe, is focusing on open wheel, and then part 3 is looking at the oval racing. And those 2 are all supposed to be out by the end of the year, so it'll be interesting to see what we get in terms of those. So yeah, there's a lot of content here in terms of new tracks, new cars, new physics engine, new weather system, new seasons system with art passes across a load of tracks and the rest to follow. Oh yeah, and then on top of that, we've also now got something that Slightly Mad never managed to add into the Project Car series in 3 goes, and that is custom championships. And being perfectly honest, they work brilliantly. It's really, really, really easy to set up. The UI is incredibly intuitive in terms of setting it up. I found it a doddle to follow it through, and there's a huge amount of stuff you can do in there. I've already set up 2 custom championships and have them running. That really is very easy. You can basically you pick a race series, you can pick multi-class racing in there or single-class racing. You can go down to a single car, single-class or multi-class, your choice in that. You pick your tracks, you pick your scoring and points system you want to work. You can set specific dates and times for absolutely everything. Build your championship up like that. You can even, if you've got it there, mess around with the order of it. You can make mandatory pit stops, you can make mandatory formation laps in there as well. You can even between races swap around whether you want it to run on a timed basis or on a per lap basis. So it's incredibly flexible to play around with, and very, very easy to use from that point of view. So there is a huge amount of stuff that we've got here. So this is, on paper, it is version 1.2 of Automobilista 2, but quite frankly, it feels like they have completely relaunched the entire game, and genuinely, it now, in my personal view, sits as one of the best sims on the market right now, both in terms of content, enjoyment, looks, the way it works, and let's not forget that this is the title that is using the Madness engine easily the best of any of the titles that have used it to date. It's also using it the most efficiently because it runs better and more effectively on the Madness engine, looks better, performs better than any of the SMS titles did. And that's whether you're looking at this flat screen or VR. It performs amazingly well in both of those. So you don't need an absolute powerhouse of a PC to get a lot out of this, and it gives you a lot of options in terms of how you fine-tune it, whether you're running flats or whether you're running VR. So in short, if you've not yet bought into Automobilista 2, I strongly recommend you pick it up and give it a go. I mean, it's on Steam, so if you've never tried it before, you can pick it up. If you don't like it, you can refund it. You're not going to lose anything. And it is a title now that, it's floated around on the edges. it's had the interesting South American stuff in it, and there are some genuinely good tracks in there, but it's never arguably done enough to make it an essential purchase in that regard. From my point of view now, well, yeah, I would class it as an essential purchase. Since this came out on Friday, and it was late Friday, so I never got a chance to look at it properly really on Friday, but every spare moment I've had over the weekend, it's been on AMS2, because this update genuinely is that good. Just playing around with the new physics engine and the new real weather system, just picking a track and changing the date and time and seeing what comes up with and how you face it. There's enough in that, in all honesty, to keep most race and sim racing fans happy for a very long time. This genuinely is a great title now, and yeah, that's my view on it. Let me know if you've played around with it or tried it, what you think down below in the comments, and if you've enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button, and if you want to see more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when new videos get uploaded. That's a roundup of what we have in V1.2 and the Racing USA DLC Part 1 for Automobilista 2. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye.